Hey guys, welcome back to r/JustNoHOA. Today's video is gonna be all about crazy homeowner associations making people's lives miserable and then deeply regretting it. Let's dive right into the video. And the first one is titled HOA Revenge. So this happened last year, but the mint is still spreading and the HOA is still losing their minds. So I figured you would appreciate this. I live in one of those cookie-cutter suburban developments with an HOA that has nothing better to do than measure grass height and count dandelions. Behind my house there's this steep slope that's basically a dead zone, terrible soil gets destroyed by sun, nothing grows there, and it looks like crap, but it's not my fault, the builder graded it wrong. Enter the HOA Compliance Committee, aka 3 retired Karens with clipboards. They then start sending me violation notices about insufficient green coverage and failure to maintain community landscaping standards. I try explaining that it is an impossible area, but they don't care. They want it green or they want fines. I spent like $200 on grass seed, it dies. Another $300 on sod, it dies. Then I hire a landscaper for $800 who basically tells me some places are not meant to be green, and then leaves. Well, more violation notices follow. Finally, I'm browsing Reddit at 2 AM, as you do, and see this post for Bad Apples Double Mint Seed Bombs that claims to solve impossible erosion problems. The whole thing sounds sketchy, but I'm desperate and facing HOA fines, so screw it, $35 for 5 seed bombs. Well, here is where the malicious compliance begins. So the violation notice specifically said that I needed to establish adequate green coverage using appropriate plant materials for erosion control. It didn't say what plants, just appropriate and green coverage. So I read up on mint and it turns out it's actually excellent for erosion control, deep roots, spreads aggressively, thrives in terrible conditions, and well, technically checks every box they demanded. Friday evening, I chuck all 5 seed bombs onto my dead zone like I'm lobbing grenades. Saturday morning, I emailed the compliance committee that I've deployed professional-grade erosion control featuring premium mint varieties selected for aggressive establishment in challenging terrain. Sounds official as hell, right? Well, plot twist, it actually worked. 6 weeks later, my dead zone is green as hell, thick, lush, beautiful mint covering everything. The compliance officer does her walkthrough and actually compliments my creative landscaping solution. The violation notices stop. I'm feeling pretty smug. Plot twist number 2, mint does not understand property lines. By fall, I notice mint popping up in the common areas too. Underground runners had snuck under the fence and were colonizing the neighbors. Spring comes and mint is everywhere, around mailboxes, along walking paths, and even in their fancy entrance landscaping. Here's the beautiful part. The HOA Charter, section 4.2.7, if anyone cares, specifically prohibits removal or disturbance of vegetation that originates from individual property owner plantings without explicit written consent. They cannot touch the mint without violating their own rules. Current situation, ongoing chaos, the HOA hired 3 different landscaping companies. All of them basically said, "You have mint now, learn to love mojitos." Community Facebook group is 50% people complaining about mint, 50% people asking where to harvest it for cocktails. Last month HOA meeting included 20 minutes of heated debate about aggressive aromatic species management. They are trying to revise the charter but need 75% homeowner approval, and everyone thinks this is hilarious. The best part though, Karen number 1 from the compliance committee now sends passive-aggressive emails about residents who deliberately introduce invasive species, but cannot name names because that would be creating a hostile community environment in the HOA Charter. By the way guys, aren't HOA Karens also considered an invasive species? There should be something about that in the HOA Charter too. Anyway, my neighbors love it, free mint for everyone. The mailman said our whole street smells like a spa. I make mint juleps with ingredients harvested from the community mailbox area. The HOA wanted green coverage, mission accomplished. And yeah guys, I have to say that is one of the best malicious compliance / pro-revenge HOA stories I've ever read. That was absolutely brilliant. If you enjoy the HOA stories, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel to not miss any of my daily uploads, and please don't forget to like the video since that would help me tremendously. The next one is titled Homeowner Association Banned My Dog and Fined Me $5,000 for my pets. So I live in a suburban neighborhood with a decent HOA. Said nobody ever. Well, it used to be decent, quiet streets, nice neighbors, and no drama. I moved here specifically because it allowed pets, and I've got two of the best companions anyone could ask for. Tank, my service dog, and Nubs, a rescue cat who's missing an eye but not an ounce of sass. Tank is a pit bull, yeah, but he's basically a weighted blanket with a tail. His hobbies include napping on my feet, politely asking for cheese, and refusing to bark at the mailman even when prompted. Nubs, on the other hand, gives everyone the stink eye, singular, and rules the house with a single claw. They are my emotional support team, my ride-or-die duo, and also a big reason that I've managed my anxiety so well for the last few years. They have kept me sane and made it possible for me to live a semi-normal life. Nubs helps a lot even though he technically is not a service animal. Everything was fine until Karen showed up. A new HOA president got elected. She has a real name, but I'm just gonna call her Karen. She has earned it. She is the type of person who acts like she was promoted from mall security to queen of the realm. First week on the job, she posted a 10-page manifesto on the HOA Facebook page about restoring order and preserving community values. The vibes? Less Mr. Rogers, more insane dictator with a vendetta. Then I got a warning letter about dangerous animals. I thought maybe someone's kid got chased by a raccoon or something. Some people do leave food out for them, so I could see it being a problem. But nope, it was about Tank. And the kicker? She bolded pitbull like it was a war crime. Nubs was called an eyesore. Yes, my Cyclops cat was literally described as a blight on the neighborhood aesthetic. Like, I'm sorry, I will let him know to grow that other eye back and tell Tank to change his DNA. About a week later, a glossy letter showed up in my mailbox, complete with the HOA's new seal, which I'm 90% sure Karen designed in Canva herself, a bald eagle glaring over a picket fence. And well guys, you gotta give it to Karen, that is a pretty hilarious HOA logo. Props for that. It explained the new bylaw stating that all pets had to be rehomed within 2 weeks or it could result in fines up to $5,000. Yes, $5,000. It did go on to say more things, saying which animals were considered pets and had to be removed. Apparently, the rules were no cats, dogs had to be under 10 pounds, and other indoor pets like fish were also fine to keep. I spat out my coffee and reread it like 4 times, like I'd suddenly forgotten how English worked. Apparently, Queen Karen had decided pets were now a threat to community health and visual harmony. I wish I was kidding. She had the audacity to cite excessive drooling and irregular fur patterns as reasons for the ban. I'm sorry, what? Okay, yeah, fine. Tank drooled a lot, especially when he saw food, but that was within my own home. He was not out here drooling on random people, but Karen was not done. That afternoon, she came strutting up to my porch like she was walking the red carpet to accept her award as biggest bozo. Karen, you have until the 1st to rehome your animals. That dog is aggressive, and the cat? Frankly, it's disturbing. Some of the board members have nightmares about it. Me? Nightmares? He sleeps in a shoebox and eats tuna off a princess plate. You're insane. Karen, your sarcasm is not appreciated. The board decision is final. I pointed out that Tank is a legit service animal. The creepy smile left her face though as she just continued talking out of her rear. Karen, that does not override HOA rules. This is a civilized neighborhood, not a junkyard. I'm pretty sure I blacked out from rage at that point. Maybe I just slammed the door in her face and went to watch TV for a while to calm down. Well, the fine hit my mailbox 2 days later. $5,000, no due process, no warning meeting, just a bill. I posted it to the neighborhood Facebook group with the caption, "Anyone else get this fascist dog tax or is it just me?" That's when the private messages started rolling in. Well, by now I had read the HOA rulebook front to back twice because I'm kind of my own brand of weird and mentally ill. And guess what? There's zero mention of a pet ban anywhere. According to the bylaws, any new policy has to be proposed at a board meeting and voted on by a majority to be enforceable. Also, in my state, they have to file it with the county as well. Karen's little crusade did not follow a single step of that process. She just declared the rule and started sending out fines. So I emailed the HOA and asked for a copy of the meeting minutes. The response I got was bizarre to say the least. That information is confidential and only available to board members. Oh, really? I'm literally a homeowner paying dues. But now the rules are top secret? Is this an HOA or the CIA? I followed up asking when the policy was discussed and who voted on it. Radio silence. A week later, I got a message from Karen herself. What an honor. Karen, it is not your place to question the board's decisions. The matter is settled. Me, you're right, it is not my place. It's the county's place. She left me on read. That's when I got petty. I printed out the HOA bylaws, highlighted every relevant passage in neon pink, and taped them to my window facing the street. My mailbox got a little red sticker the next day labeled "Violation." Cute. I guess it's illegal to quote their own rulebook now. I also made a request via the county. The HOAs here are required to file all their rules with the county, so if the pet ban was real, then there would be some kind of record of it. Spoiler alert, there was no record, and I made sure to get that in writing. I posted the county's confirmation online. This ban is not legal. Don't pay the fine, keep your pets. Karen? Still pretending like she is judge, jury, and executioner, but cracks were starting to show. Once my post about the illegal pet ban started circulating, a bunch of neighbors messaged me. Some supportive, others confused, but more than a few were furious. It turns out I was not the only one getting these mysterious fines. Here is the kicker though. Not everyone with pets got them, only certain people. A family down the street with a golden retriever? No fine. The lady with the 3 Persian cats that shed so much they could make another cat? Nada. But the guy with the elderly 3-legged greyhound hit with $3,500. The single mom with a bulldog and a 1-eared bunny slammed with $4,000. It did not take Sherlock Holmes to see the pattern. The HOA, aka Karen's regime, was targeting animals that did not fit their warped idea of a picturesque neighborhood. Tank's a pit bull? Strike 1. Service dog? Strike 2. Nubs only has 1 eye and meows like a broken kazoo? Apparently, strike 3. If your animal was not a beige golden doodle named Bentley with an Instagram following, you were on the chopping block. I caught Karen at the mailbox one day and straight up asked her why others had not been fined. Karen said, "Some residents have pets that are tasteful and don't detract from neighborhood standards. Yours are unconventional." And guys, is Karen talking about herself here? She is clearly the untasteful person in the neighborhood. Anyway, me, unconventional? He's a licensed service animal and looks like I googled the word pitbull and 3D printed him. Karen, don't get aggressive with me. Me, well that is Tank's job, you know, the aggressive one currently licking peanut butter off a spoon. She stomped off in a huff, making another comment about my sarcasm. I think she just cannot appreciate good humor. I realized then that this was not about rules, it was just about bias. She was not just breaking HOA bylaws, she was actively discriminating. And she was too arrogant to think that anyone could stop her. I was not just mad anymore, I was on a mission. You wanna fine me for having pets? Okay, but now I'm about to fine you for being stupid. Step 1. ADA laws. Tank is a service dog for my anxiety disorder, and under the Americans with Disabilities Act, it's 100% illegal to discriminate against someone in such a way for having a service animal. That includes trying to evict them, fine them, or limit their rights in housing. This will come back later though. I contacted a lawyer friend and she practically laughed herself off the phone. This is textbook discrimination. She asked if I wanted her to send them a letter using the word civil lawsuit a bunch of times. Well, letter sent. Step 2. Documentation. I filed a formal complaint with the county's housing authority and attached the illegal fine letter and the email where Karen called my cat horrifically asymmetrical. I added a sticky note, his name is Nubs and he's a king. Step 3. Exposed a fraud. I printed out flyers that said the rule was not valid and to not pay fines or get rid of pets. I handed them out door to door with Tank trotting next to me like a good boy. He wore his vest and held the flyers in a bag around his neck. 10 out of 10, good boy. People started talking though, a few even told me that they'd already sent out money out of fear but were now demanding refunds. Karen tried to block me on the Facebook group, but someone screenshotted every comment and reposted it with the caption, "Nice try, Mussolini." Let me set the scene. The monthly HOA meeting, usually about 5 people show up, mostly complaining about lawn gnomes and garbage bins being left out. This time, it was standing room only. People brought lawn chairs, someone brought popcorn, and was handing it out like this was a movie. I brought Tank with the vest and Nubs in a baby sling like a pirate's sidekick. Karen brought her usual smirk expression and a printed agenda labeled Enforcement Protocol Review. Things went off the rails fast. I stood up during the open forum and dropped the bomb. Me, this HOA is violating federal ADA laws and the county has no record of your so-called pet ban and the bylaws were not followed when this rule was supposedly passed. So, care to explain yourself? Or would anybody else like to tell me if they were here and voted on this ruling? Karen, you're misinformed. We had internal discussions. Me, that's not how this works. You don't get to invent laws at brunch. Others started chiming in. A disabled veteran with a service beagle stood up and said that she'd been fined too. Another person said they'd gotten a warning for their elderly and unattractive cat. Seriously, those were Karen's words. I made sure to come to this meeting prepared. I brought a video camera. Yeah, I could have used my phone, but I thought it would be easier. I wanted to record the entire thing and send it to the county, which has an HOA compliant sector or board or something, sending the video along with the list of complaints I had against the HOA at this point so they could do their own investigation. I was not gonna be silent either, as I came with a list of violations and spoke about all of them. Mainly wanting it on record and also to get Karen's reaction on recording for when I sent in the video. As I kept going, Karen just got white in the face, especially when I got to the violations regarding my dog, making it clear that he was a legit real service animal. Karen, well, clearly there's been some misunderstanding. Me, no misunderstanding. You broke the law. Multiple times in fact. One board member literally stood up and walked out mid-meeting like they were leaving a bad movie. Another started apologizing to everyone and tried to blame Karen, who responded trying to say she was just trying to do what was best for the community. People also demanded to see exactly how Karen was deciding which pets were considered okay and which were not. After the meeting, I sent everything in and made sure to file complaints and all the paperwork I needed. It took a while to get any kind of response, but eventually they had somebody look into the violations and contact the HOA, telling them that they basically had to refund all the money they took from people paying fines for the animals. But I was not done there. I gathered enough people to file a class action lawsuit against her, with the main attack from us being that she was trying to go after multiple service animals, since Tank was not the only one. Karen trying to break ADA laws was gonna be a thing that I felt would get her in the end. It was like a lawyer's dream case, since she had no excuse to try and do this. Karen could have avoided all of this potentially with an apology or playing dumb to the courts. Instead though, she decided to double down and claim that my dog could not be a real service animal since it was a pit bull. The court was not buying anything she was saying and instead agreed that she was going against ADA law. She was slammed with fines, but I think the satisfaction was a judge telling her that she was wrong despite her attempts to look like the good person. Eventually, all of the money came back to the people that paid those fines, although it did take a while. People were throwing block parties for their animals. One guy threw a Free the Furballs barbecue where his dachshund wore a cape and ran around dramatically. His yard was fenced in and all dogs were welcome to go off leash and play. 3 board members resigned and a special election was called. Karen was still trying to claim that she was only helping the community, but nobody was buying it at all. She stepped down the next day, no announcement, just poof. Gone like a villain at the end of a Disney movie. I think she knew if she didn't, then she was gonna be forced out of her position. Especially after the fines nearly bankrupted the HOA, I ran for one of the open board seats and I won. I wanted the seat, so if another crazy Karen tries anything, I can shut it down from the inside. By the way, Tank is the unofficial HOA mascot now, and Nubs, he is still judging everyone from his window perch like a furry little Cyclops king. And now let's move on to the next story. It starts like this. I am all for understanding the grind and doing what you need to in order to make money. There's a line though, and it gets crossed when you do something illegal like this Karen did. So I live in an apartment complex that has a small private outdoor patio. The extra space is nice and I keep a couple of plants out there as well as a chair when the weather is nice. Around November, it started to hit the point where it was a little bit too cold for my comfort, so the patio door was locked and I didn't go out there. The other important note for how my apartment complex works is that I pay rent for the apartment, but the utilities like gas and electricity are my own responsibility, and the building has, in the basements, meters to read for each individual unit. I was not doing anything differently, but when I got my bill at the end of November, it was about 3 times higher than what I expected it to be. I contacted the building to see if there might have been an issue with the meter or if the price of electricity went up and I was just living under a rock and missed it. They double-checked and told me that the meter and my bill were correct. I started going around unplugging things that might have been using power. Finally, I went to my patio to see if I had left something plugged in out there. There was an extension cord coming out of my outlet and going into a unit a few doors down from me. I unplugged it and figured that the person stealing my electricity would get the picture that they had been caught and shut their little operation down. I also reported it to the building manager to cover my bases, and well, 2 days later I checked again and saw that the plug was back in and this time had a weird lock around it. Basically something that was holding the plug in place so it couldn't just be unplugged. I saw which apartment it was going in and decided to knock on their door and confront them. When the woman opened the door, I realized that this was Karen's apartment. I knew that this woman lived in my floor, but not the exact apartment number. She was well known for yelling at people in the lobby and taking up all the machines in the communal laundry room and then taking her sweet time when she knew people were waiting. In her mind, the world revolved around her. Me, why are you running an extension cord in my patio? Karen, not that it is any of your concern, but I'm busy mining bitcoins. That sentence right there made me understand the huge bill. I'm not the smartest when it comes to things like cryptocurrency, but one of the few things I do know is that mining Bitcoin uses a ton of power, and mining setups tend to be working 24/7. She for sure knew this and was trying to leech power, so she didn't have to pay for it. Me, you cannot use my electricity and rack up my bill. Remove the plug now and I expect you to pay for the bill you ran up. Karen, oh my god, sorry for the cringe spelling, but I swear this is how she said it, it's not that big of a deal. Neighbors share things with each other all the time, it's part of being a good person. Me, a cup of sugar and stealing my electricity is not the same thing. I'm not gonna waste my time arguing with you, so just tell me, are you gonna listen and remove it? Karen, no, I need it. This mining is my new business. I refuse to waste my limited time and energy to argue with a Karen. There's no way to reason with them, so I just contacted building management and they told me that they would speak to Karen, but for the bill I should file a police report. So I did just that, and after refusing to listen to the building manager, he called the police on Karen as well. They gained access and broke the locks she had in order to unplug her setup. It turns out that she was stealing from multiple neighbors that must have not figured out what was happening as fast as I did. Hell, me finding it was basically dumb luck. This was clear theft, and due to the fact that she was using it to power her Bitcoin mining rig, it was also now considered evidence. They took it away with her screaming that they cannot steal from her, not even paying attention to the fact that she was being arrested. The charges against her were 4 separate counts, each of electricity theft and utility fraud. Again, she only seemed concerned about getting her rig back, not caring that it was evidence of a crime she committed. To her, these charges were so minor and insignificant that she was blowing the whole thing off. To make things even better for everybody else in the building, she was getting evicted from her apartment. Not because she was not paying her rent or anything, but because of her mining rig. She was breaking at least 3 separate rules from her renter agreement, including stealing from her neighbors, but also running so much electricity into one unit that it could have blown out the whole system. I sadly did not get to show up to court and see exactly how everything went. I heard stories from the building manager who was able to go and see what was gonna happen, since if she was found innocent, he might have had to revoke her eviction. The main thing that I heard from him is the fact when Karen was told the harm she was doing, she had no remorse at all. She basically said that it was the right thing to do for neighbors to be kind and should have let her use the electricity, not agreeing that her rig is the reason for thousands of extra dollars on people's electric bills over the 2 billing months she was able to get away with it. Finally, when faced with the fact the building could have caught fire since extension cords are not made to handle that amount of power, she could only say, well, it didn't. I'm convinced that in her mind, since nobody was physically hurt or died or anything, and no tangible items were taken, that she was not gonna get in trouble. She treated the trial like a lecture, and no matter who told her it was serious, I could see her not believing it. She probably expected a slap on the wrist and the ability to move back into the apartment and continue mining. Instead, the judge gave her 2 years in prison for all of the charges, not to mention that she was forced to pay the electricity bills of everybody she stole from. If she had not been greedy and instead just used her own power for this, she might have not gotten in any trouble at all. Or if her one unit couldn't handle it, ask the neighbors and offer them money for the electricity. So now she's in prison with her equipment, probably staying in police evidence for years, as I heard things tend to get lost in that system. Usually something I would be against, but if it happened to Karen, I would not bat an eye over it. Before we end the video, let's read one last funny story from r/pettyrevenge. It is titled, "Okay, I will F off." So 10 plus years ago, I did a 3-week road trip across the United States. I'm originally from the UK. We met lots of amazing people. However, this story is not about them. It was around midnight and we were deciding which bar to go to when I noticed a very drunk guy drop his wallet, scatter his bank cards everywhere. He picked them up with the help of his more sober friend and then he staggers 20 feet, lights his last cigarette and throws the empty packet back in the direction he just came from before collapsing onto the floor. It was then that I'd noticed that he forgot to pick up his driving license. I yell across to him that his driving license is on the floor and point to it. He yells back, "That's a cigarette packet. F off to England, you damn idiot." I was pretty taken aback both by how much of an a-hole he was and because it definitely was a driving license. So I told him, if I'm going to F off back to England, I will need a souvenir, and pocketed the license. 2 minutes later, I see his friend running towards me, so I threw the license deep into a hedge. To the friend's credit though, he was very apologetic. I pointed vaguely towards the hedge, told him it was somewhere in there, and dipped into a nearby bar. Half an hour later, I came out to see them looking in the hedge about 20 feet from where I threw it. I would be surprised if they found it. And yeah guys, thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like the video and I will see you again tomorrow.